Hello and welcome to the Video Game Dads podcast. This is episode 38, guys. 38.
Yeah.
38, feeling great.
Yeah.
2 from 40, then it's downhill.
We're going downhill quick, guys.
Yeah. So the Video Game Dads podcast, we're 3 guys in a basement, talk gaming, fatherhood, and everything in between. We are an amateur, family-friendly, no cussing, but not any promises, any adult content. So if they know what we're talking about, they're old enough to know what we're talking about.
No earmuffs.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
PG-13.
Tri-weekly podcast. We try to do this every 3 weeks, every Monday. We've been pretty good, patting ourselves on the back, sticking to this schedule.
Yep.
I'm proud of us. Let's buy some
We're
video
doing
games
good.
for each other.
Yep.
That's how we... Oh, wait, we do that anyway. Let's see. How can you get a hold of us there, Mr. Adam?
You can, probably the easiest way is on Facebook, facebook.com/videogamedads.
Yeah, and since I introduced you already, let's actually get through the introductions. I am Ben, to my left.
Michael?
Adam.
And I'm Shane.
Yeah, that's right. Even though there's 4 of us, we're sticking with the
We got a
old-
full house.
Yeah,
We got
yeah.
a full house tonight.
Yeah, super full house. Yeah, Mr. Shane over there. What's our email?
Our email is videogamedads.
At yahoo.com.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
You guys are like
One
twins.
day I will get this.
Yeah, and you can tweet at us at Video Game Dads. You can, our Instagram's dead, but you can look at some really good 12 or so pictures on that sucker. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. This is something else kind of that's happening anyway. This is like year 2.
Yes.
It is.
This is like officially year 2. I remember year 1 didn't feel like that long ago.
Yeah.
But I feel
really
like this
flew
year
by.
went by. I feel like this year flew by.
It did.
Definitely did for me.
Yeah, really fast. And I know we kind of...
That's what having extra kids does.
Yeah,
For sure.
it totally does. And, last year, to be perfectly honest, we kind of got off schedule around the holidays and life happened, things happened, all important stuff. But we're going to try to still stay consistent. The only thing, just a heads up, is we're going to take one break off every 3 weeks when it lands. It'll land on December 27th. We're going to take that one off. We'll warn you next time. We still got 2 episodes before that, I think, or at least one more episode.
Yep.
We're taking that one off, but otherwise we'll be sticking to our regularly scheduled programming. So guys, here's what we do. We talk video games, old video games, new video games, mainly old ones. We talk about the things that tickled our pickle back in the day.
Yeah.
Let's see if we got anybody's eyebrows up for that. No, not really.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to follow you down that one.
We got a ball cage.
Yes.
We did get a ball cage.
Yeah.
That's true.
So that was funny. Adam, so for those of you who don't, we do this segment called the Video Game Book Club, and we do a randomizer. Just real quick, I'll mention these electronic randomizers. We've been having weird picks out of here, and we got a lot of our... I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to do some homework. I got a mechanical, bingo,
Thing's
hand
legit.
turn
Like
crank thing.
old lady bingo.
Old
Yes.
lady bingo.
Yes.
Because I'm feeling like this electronic randomizer that we've been using, and I downloaded another one to see it doesn't really randomize.
Really
I
go
put
through
in
everyone.
30 things just to test it, and it picked the same thing 8 times.
Yeah.
Wait,
And
you're
I'm-
telling me we're not playing bingo later?
No, we're not playing.
No,
I'm
no.
sorry.
bingo.
bingo.
No
man.
bingo.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm leaving.
yeah. Disappointed now.
yeah. Sorry about that,
All
buddy.
Dang.
Sorry.
I had my card ready.
Yeah,
My
so-
daughter.
Well, in order to keep with this integrity of our video game book club, I'm putting in, this is our random picks of our video games we get in. I'm gonna, not this time, we're gonna do the randomizer one more time, but next time I'm going through all our old emails, all our old Facebook, making sure everything's in there, and I'm gonna list off all the games in there and put them in an actual mechanical thing, so we pick them every time, and that'll be really fun.
It'll be like watching Powerball.
It really is, yeah.
You
It's-
probably hear it going around.
Yeah, it's the Powerball, because nothing against this last pick, but the last pick was we just put in a new game, randomizer.
That's right.
picked
We're
it.
going to put Shane in a dress. They always have some woman in some sequiny dress,
Yeah.
Yeah.
pulling out ping pong balls.
Oh,
Yeah, so you have that to look forward to.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I shave my legs.
So let's quickly run down what we're talking about this time. So of course we'll do our video game book club, our handheld holla, some shouts, mentions, emails. We'll also talk about something pretty cool that someone sent us here in a second. We'll get that one knocked out real quick. Also, Black Friday's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deals.
Talk about some deals.
Deals.
The Mega SG. Red Dead 2. We didn't get to talk about that last time, but we'll talk about it a little bit here. Not everybody got to play it, but that'll allow me to ask some questions about it. What else we've been playing? Also, the loss of a prolific figure not quite in video games, but has a lot to do with some good video
over.
games.
Yep.
And so Roseanne was killed off on the show.
On the Connors.
On the Connors.
No,
yeah.
I'm sorry. We're talking about Stanley,
Yeah.
of course. God, now it's a bad taste in my mouth that I went to Roseanne over Stanley. But Stanley is no more. He's up in the big comic book in the sky.
Yeah, R.I.P., man.
But overall, guys, how you doing? How you feeling this Thursday night? Everybody good?
Pretty good. My day started off kind of rough, though.
Yeah, what's up?
Well, my kid, we got him all ready. He's just started daycare last week, which, a little rough on him. And
This is the first time he's been to daycare.
he went last year, but, he was off the whole summer, because my wife's a teacher. And then she also had the maternity leave, so he's had almost like 6 months, kind of not
just her,
going.
yeah.
So it's been kind of a little traumatic for him.
Yeah.
But he bumped his head a little bit and started crying, and then ended up getting sick all over himself right before we were leaving to daycare. So I was like 30 minutes late to work this morning.
boy.
But it's just one of those things that happens,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's-
So, Adam, funny story.
Tell me about this funny story.
We have skipped ahead 3 days in time, and you and I are in the basement now.
Weirdest time warp ever.
Yeah. So, guys, guess what happened?
Technology happened.
Technology happened. All four of us were in the basement. It's the way we do this. Thursday night, we record, we prep during the week, and then we put it out on Sunday or on Monday morning. It is currently Sunday evening, 8:22 Central Time, and Adam and I are here trying to salvage an episode because if you've noticed, we've had a weird segue all of a sudden. We only got 5 or 6 minutes of actual recording, and we recorded probably about a half hour.
Yeah.
Thank God we
before
didn't.
before we noticed the problem.
Yeah, and it was a good half hour. But yeah, so my laptop kind of blew up. If you listen to the show, I bought a laptop 2 Black Fridays ago, and it's been sealed because my laptop's been doing fine, and it just like anything, you need to spend a whole day like uploading everything, getting rid of your stuff. So I just haven't opened it, and life happened. I had a kid. Oh boy. So that stunk. So we were here and I couldn't get the laptop going. And the hard drive was acting funky. So then we ended up having to just quit. And hopefully we were able to see who can come out. And at least Adam, you were able to stop by. So we were able to salvage a little bit of an episode. But that's kind of what happened. But we're trying to at least put something out there since we say we would put something out every 3 weeks. So we have some technical difficulties.
If we only had a DeLorean and a flux capacitor,
I know
all this could be
Dang
fixed.
it. And it's like I had the best intention when I worked a job as a kid, like as a neighbor. I remember this older neighbor guy. Right, I would imagine this. I'm 16. He's like 45.
Okay.
Well-to-do, and I was just helping him out with painting and mortaring his basement. It was like a teenage job, and it was great because it was tax-free, and he was giving us like $7 an hour, which again, in the mid '90s is pretty good for a little kid or whatever. Not little, I was like 16, 17. And so I remember we were working with one of his drills, mixing paint, and his drill burned out, like his power drill. And normally that would end your day. But he's like, well, wait, I have another one I got whenever this would burn out. And I was like, what? And as a kid, I was like, man, this guy's got his stuff together.
He's got a backup drill.
Yeah, he knew his drill would go out, so he had a backup drill. I was like, wow. And technically, I kind of did that, where I knew my laptop would go out, and I had a backup laptop. The problem was I should have maybe quit when I was ahead, not when I was behind, because turning on a drill is a little different than getting a laptop.
Yeah, see, and
I had
everybody
to
thinks I'm
upload
crazy.
all the programs.
You know about my apocalypse closet, don't you?
I do not know about your apocalypse.
So I have a sealed PS3. Like, so basically, when systems go on clearance,
Okay.
like they're
they're
on their way out the door.
Yeah.
I buy a sealed one,
Yep.
and it goes in a closet.
Nice.
And when all my other crap doesn't work,
You'll have a new
I've
one.
got a brand new one
Yeah.
in the closet. So you just wait until you can buy your PS3 on clearance for $60. Leave it in the box.
Yep. You know, that's why we're friends, because I happen to be a weirdo and have a PS3 sealed upstairs in the back of, not a closet, but like a drawer that I only know that's back there. Because I knew if it was somewhere else, I'd move it around or the kid would get into it or something.
Yeah, I've done it with basically everything post 32, 64-bit era.
Yeah.
I've got a sealed Dreamcast.
Nice.
I've got a PS2.
Okay.
I've got a GameCube.
Sweet. I did not know that. Cool.
Yeah, so I've got a little cache of Apocalypse systems.
Geez, that's the way to do it.
So after everything's gone, I'll fire up the generator and play some Mario Party.
So what we're going to try to do is Adam and I are going to try to salvage an episode. We now, even though I started out by saying 3 days ago, this was episode 38, we're going to call this episode 37.5 because unfortunately we're not going to be able to do the book club. We already said we're probably not going to be able to do emails, but we'll run through a lot of our show segments we were going to do and just get through that. But again, this is just salvaging the episode. So sorry. And if you're a first-time listener, we're not this big of a cluster. I'm sorry. Usually. We're a moderately sized cluster.
We're trying to make lemonade out of them lemons.
Yeah. So we'll run through, we'll still run through Black Friday, the Mega SG, little Red Dead 2 talk by Adam, Mr. Stan Lee, Tetris, some of our pickups, that kind of thing. And I'll talk about that new PSX list just briefly.
Yeah.
So I think we have enough to, and we'll still keep our handheld holo, even though we cannot do our book club because of this kind of thing. Like I said, this will be a shorter episode. Stay along with us. Apologies, but I'm glad we were able to do something. And I'm really glad we didn't record. Can you imagine if we recorded 2.5 hours and I didn't realize it or something? Like that would have been. We almost did that once.
Yeah. We have had other issues at times.
And it was probably that should have been my warning that I should have then switched the laptop, but I wasn't really that. I thought, it's fine. But anyway, again, this is part of life of getting older. Like memory.
Crap don't work as good as it used to.
Yeah, it just doesn't. And it's not like the world has changed in 3 days, but a few things have happened in the last 3 days.
Yeah, we've had some fun.
Yeah, we're getting closer to this holiday called the
Turkey Day.
The Turkey Day coming up. I'm so happy because I got a short week. I only work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I got a 4-day week.
I'm out there. Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I got to do Friday.
Well, at least you got Thursday off. Glass half full. But besides that, there was something really cool that happened this last weekend. Just the day after we fake recorded and had to stop, and everybody had to go home. Yeah,
it's actually something that I've been looking forward to for months and months and months. Probably 8 or 9 months, I think, at this point.
And you haven't talked about it, but
no,
cool.
I kind of was keeping my sort of mouth shut about it until I sort of knew what was going to happen and that sort of thing. So I'm a big fan of music, kind of just in the general sense. And particularly when I was a younger, more ill-tempered lad,
had some angst in you.
Angst, but I used to listen to, and I still do listen to punk rock.
Cool.
And when I say punk rock, I'm talking about, some people would call it post-punk, I suppose. I mean, I'm not talking like 70s or early 80s. I'm not really talking about like Sex Pistols or.
Yeah, those are the people that say, well, you're a punk rock son.
Yeah.
I'm not in it. I just listen casually to everything.
Sort of, but more, in the time that I grew up, late 80s, early 90s, there was a band in particular back in the day. I bought their very first album on tape cassette.
Nice.
And it was MXPX, and the album was Poking At You.
Nice.
And the guys in the band were just a few years older than I was, but wore that tape out, and I've basically bought every album since. And they're a band that's always sort of been with me. I know all their songs. I've listened to all their side projects. They've always been kind of my thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of like to have your thing that's, other people are welcome to it, that sort of thing, but, that you get, and maybe some other people don't or whatever, but there's a big following, and always sort of has been for this particular band. They did a Kickstarter several months back, and one of the Kickstarter perks was to have Mike Herrera, the singer from MXPX, come out to your place.
Mike Herrera.
And do a house party, do a show at a house party.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
And you freaking did it.
Yeah, that's what we did.
So you did kind of the thing that, people say, they wish, they pipe dream, if I could put this together, if I can get this going. Yeah.
I mean, when you hear people refer back to like the most influential music or whatever for their life journey,
Yeah, this was your band.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's been making music since I've been old enough to even really appreciate music, and he still is.
Yeah.
And now, I have the opportunity to have him come, show up at the house, say thank you for all the stuff you've done over the years, and I've been one of your, people kind of watching from afar, but to actually get to meet him to come out to the house, put on a great show.
Is it the first time you've seen him in in a concert?
Oh no!
I was gonna
I've seen him
say.
in concert several times in the past, but it's always been
figured.
like I'm in the crowd and he's
Sure.
on stage, like a standard concert where there's like 1,000 plus people there,
Yeah.
or whatever. But and I've or on Warped Tour or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this was just us, him. At my house, like about 15 people there, and it was really, really cool. I mean, the coolest single thing about it, I mean, just aside from the fact that it actually happened, and you're meeting someone that you feel like but don't really, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is that he let me pick the track list.
Yeah,
he
that was
said,
really cool.
He basically said, hey, and and when I got that email, I was like, oh boy, he just opened up Pandora's box,
Right.
because like I don't like all the. I mean, I love everything they've ever done, but I'm not.
You like a lot of the B-sides.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm not going to pick all your singles. I'm going to pick stuff that like the songs that are my personal songs, kind of thing. So I sent him a big long track list, and he sang damn near every one of them.
That's awesome.
And some stuff that I'm sure he is not that he's not performed in front of people for quite some time. And in particular, he has kind of a side project band called Arthur, and one of their songs actually proposed to my wife to that song. And so we got to do that song in person, with both of us there. So it was a really cool, really special sort of evening. That and just getting to hang out with all of, close friends, family, all those kinds of things. And for me personally, it's sort of one of those bucket list things. It's where, you've gone through life and this has been a thing with you for a really long time. And if my 16 or 17-year-old self could have hung out the other night.
Yep.
Well, I guess he kind of did, my 16 or 17-year-old self. But it was really neat. It was one of those coming of age, self-fulfillment, kind of like closing the loop. I don't really know how you.
And it's not like you do. This is something I've heard of this, right? Like, let's say I remember once somebody said, "Oh, this guy in the Middle East of a kid of an oil tycoon got Beyonce to sing at his house," and I'm like, can you imagine being in a house where Beyonce just shows up and arrives? And this was kind of cool from my perspective. So the way this happened is you invited me and a bunch of other friends. And when you say MXPX, again, I grew up listening to, just different music, but I really like Green Day. I listened to like Blink 182, and I remember Sum 41, and evidently MXPX was right in there with those those guys.
They were in
and
the
they
same
weren't.
cohort.
I wasn't in that genre, but I know a lot of friends that know MXPX. I want to check him out, so I started looking at it, and I was like, wow, this guy's got really cool interviews. He seems really cool. The music seems like something I'd be into, so I was excited to kind of get to go, and I brought a friend of mine, and it was really surreal to like watch, and he did an acoustic show, which was great because it was just him and a guitar. And I love this because my perspective again is different because this is for you and you were a fan and you happened to be gracious enough to have your friend, because you could have just done this, you and your wife.
Yeah, no, we could have. Yeah, it would have been a little weird.
That would have been weird,
yeah.
but like perfectly something that I bet people do. Can you imagine? I bet he's done that before. But either way, it was cool because it was obviously all for you. And then I'm just like everybody else where it's like, yep, you're right front row center. I videoed a little bit mainly for you guys too, because I knew you guys were just drinking it in. It's kind of like wedding day where you go through it and you're smiling and shaking so many hands, and all of a sudden it's over and you're like, wait, what just happened? It's over. I don't remember any of it. I was instantly thinking like, oh, I better record some of this. And it was while I was like recording and listening to it, this was great stuff. I don't listen to a lot of live music, but like, I didn't know any of the songs, but I was enjoying them. And then by the third time he got to his verse again, I was like humming it along and singing along. And right afterward, me and my buddy were like, all right, let's go buy some of his CDs right now. Let's go, like, you know what I mean? Like you instantly become a fan. And, music is so subjective. And some people like, I know like sometimes people like really hard metal or something. And all they talk about is metal is great and all of the music stinks. Or like for me, once I started studying classical music, I thought all pop music was terrible because it's just using like 5% of what the classical people did, like Mozart. You're using 5% of his brain power that he did for a symphony to make this like dewy boo-wop, whatever. So like that's my perspective on music. And then like then seeing this, I was like, no, this guy is a wonderful musician. He's extremely talented. He's extremely gracious. He's a great showman. I mean, I had a ton of fun. I know my buddy Justin that I brought.
Yeah,
with me
I mean,
too.
it was amazing. I mean, it's one of those things that you can only do something like that once.
Yeah, yeah, or twice. Shoot,
Or twice.
I know it's one of those like, it went so well, you want to do, yeah. But yeah, it was a ton of fun. We got to see your new digs and
Yeah, at the new house.
yeah, we talked about that. Real cool dude. He's a Texan, right? I guess.
Well, he's originally from Bremerton, Washington, but now kind of Bremerton, Washington / Waco, Texas.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of lives between the two areas. now.
Yeah. Yeah. Good weather either way. Not facing this freezing weather we're dealing with right now. But yeah, that was really cool. Really enjoyed it. Anything else to say about your?
Well, I'll
fun
just,
little concert?
for any of our listeners, I'll just plug him real fast.
Oh, yeah.
mxpx.com. And he also does his own podcast, the My Carrera podcast.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah. So he's a podcaster as well.
Sweet. Yeah.
If you want to listen to him interview a lot of pop culture types, punk singers, whatever, he has like a gazillion episodes. It's pretty good, so you should listen to it.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're like me, where if you haven't heard of him before and you like Green Day, you know what I mean?
No. I mean, this is 100% like, and I didn't hate on other bands or anything back in the day or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it was always, we would have discussions about. I remember with friends and things like, oh, well, this is better, that's better. I'm like, well, it's not really that anything's better, but you should listen to this, kind of thing.
And he hung out for a while afterward too. and
Yeah,
just
no,
showed
it
you-
was totally cool, and I was afraid it would be awkward and weird and all that. Totally wasn't. It was nice.
Yeah, no, it was great. Awesome time, good time. So anyway, video game dad podcast.
It is a video game podcast.
Everybody's gonna be like, this podcast sucks. It's like, yeah, again, we're scrounging together because we hear that's the thing to do.
Yeah,
in
there's a
these
little
instances.
game called Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, Red Dead. So I am waiting to play this until I get a 4K TV, which I don't have yet. Mm-hmm. You've gotten to play this game. It came out. We don't talk a lot of modern, but people.
Or Red Dead 2, I guess.
Red Dead
say.
2.
Yeah.
People are really digging this game. So real quick before we get into it, Red Dead 1. What is your?
I played a lot of Red Dead 1. I didn't beat it, but I
Same
probably
here.
I probably put 40 or 50 hours into it. And,
That's funny.
Give or take.
Same here. I got to Mexico and Red Dead 1 was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I fell off. Western stuff. How about even like I watched Bonanza as a kid?
Yeah, so the weird thing is I always think in my mind that I don't like Westerns.
Yeah.
Like I don't really like Westerns, but then if there's a Western on TV, I'm like, I'm watching this Western.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, to myself, it's an underappreciated genre because I actually really enjoy them when I think about it. So things like Tombstone, or there's a great Kevin Costner Western that came out a few years ago, Open Range. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's awesome.
No, I haven't seen it.
And-
Wait, no. I saw that 310 Yuma one.
Yeah, 310 to Yuma.
I like that.
Yeah, with Christian Bale. That's a good movie.
And what's his butt? Russell Crowe?
Yeah,
Is he-
Russell Crowe.
Yep. I thought that was good.
But even like hokey westerns, like Maverick, or if you go back old, True Grit, or even the remake of True Grit.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean they're relatable. I mean we're from that part of the world, so I
Back to the Future 3.
Back to the Future 3,
It
the
is
most
technically
classic
awesome.
western of all time.
That was like when Steven Spielberg wanted to make a monster movie, so he used Jurassic Park 2 to make the T-Rex. Like he basically made the whole movie for the scene he wanted. Just kind of like how they made a Western because that director really wanted to make a Western. So he's like, hey, there's this franchise that I can print money.
Let's make a western out of it.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty tight movie,
Yeah.
but I still, it's the weakest of the three for me.
Sure.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think I probably would agree with that. I love the whole trilogy. I think in general, but
I'm glad it exists. But
I
the
think if
third
I
one-
had to delete one, it'd probably be 3.
Yeah. But anyway, so Red Dead.
Red Dead.
It's a Rockstar game.
It is.
Supposedly, it has taken like 10 or 12 years in development of the story. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, and I have purposefully tried because there's been a lot online,
Yeah.
both things confirmed and a lot of speculation about things. So up until release day on it, I purposefully tried really hard not to even look at headlines on websites about,
cool.
what the plot was about or anything.
Cool.
And so I didn't really know. So minor spoilers. I'm not going to tell anything big, but it's actually a prequel.
Yep.
To the first Red Dead, and I didn't know that until I basically started playing it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an interesting surprise.
Cool.
And in this version or this game, you are a different person in the gang with John Marston, who is the main character in the first Red Dead.
Right.
So you're a different guy. but John Marston's actually still in the game.
So easy check mark. Is it? It was an open world Western game. Is it
Correct.
still an open world?
It's Grand
Western
Theft Auto
game?
in the Old West.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But I've seen a couple funny memes already. Like horses can run into things and they fall over and that kind of thing. I hear there's a lot of cool scripted events that feel very unscripted.
There really are. I mean, where the game really shines is the dialogue. Like
That's what I've heard.
it does capture the old Western feel, and the dialogue is really good. I mean, everything's put together with a lot of thought and care, and of course, there's like a gazillion side missions, and there's all kinds of things to go get yourself involved in and do, and
Cool.
just like other Rockstar games, are kind of famous for.
What's your favorite? So this is kind of just us back and forth since you played it and I haven't. What's so far your favorite kind of thing that's not a main game? Like, is it fishing? Is there hunting? Is
I
it
mean,
just exploring. What's
really?
The fun
I mean,
thing?
it's the same thing that like Grand Theft Auto games have. It's just you hear random stuff going on. Like you're
run
on your
towards
way to accomplish something, but then you're like, why is that guy standing over there? Or what's she talking about? And then
Okay.
all of a sudden you're involved in some shootout, that you didn't know that you were going to be involved in. It's just sort of a combination of the being able to be distracted by the things on the side of the road.
Gotcha.
I think is probably what I enjoy the most.
And you're not one that's a huge fan of open world games, if I remember
No,
correctly.
I don't in the general sense.
But
yeah.
this one is crossing that.
It's good. I guess I have a lot of positives and a lot of negatives to say about it, I suppose.
Yeah, go for it. I want to play this. So for me, I haven't played it yet. I'm definitely going to play it. The big things I've also heard is the graphics and the HDR effects and like the look of this game look better than like any game.
Oh
ever.
yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say that any game, but yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it definitely looks good. But looks good, plays good. And like I said, you can tell there's all that attention to detail, and it's a very, I don't really know how to phrase it. It's a very realistic game,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And that's also that's its greatest achievement, and it's also its greatest downfall. I think all rolled into one.
So yeah, what way? Go ahead. Go into some negative.
So
What's slow paced or the tutorial?
it can be slow paced. It can be a little bit methodical. It can be a little bit frustrating a little bit at times. And then the other thing is that it's so real. They tried to make it so real that there are things in it that are real life, but it's like these are the parts of real life that I don't want to be involved in.
Right, like paying bills and
Well,
What do you-
shaving, like
Yes, okay, I've heard
you have
about
to
it.
you have to do personal maintenance. You have to bathe. You have to shave. You have to
So I've heard
get your
about
hair
that.
cut. You have to do these things, and I mean it's kind of cool to change the look of your character every so often, that kind of thing. But I just as soon have a menu, pause, do it.
Yeah, because for me, just hearing that, we don't have much. We're dads, right?
Yeah.
And dads listen to this, and one of our biggest emails by far, like our most recurring theme, is, "Hey, I don't have time. How do you guys find time to play games?" And I'm more like, "Well, this podcast kind of takes that time, at
Yeah,
least
a
for
lot of
me. It's
Yeah.
like most of it, which I enjoy." But because we're talking about the games and talking about and playing are almost the same at some point, even though that sounds that sounds sad to like people who don't have kids yet. But the kid thing makes it worth it. People, FYI, you lose your game time no matter what. I don't know how you can.
It is. You can't manufacture.
Yeah,
new time.
you can't create more time. That's the famous quote of a bum on the street, a CEO. They still have 24 hours in the day. You can't buy time. So, although you can buy things that make more time in the day, like I pay someone to do my yard now, and you know what? It's freaking great. Hours of my summer are now gone. But some people find that therapeutic, so then they do it. Benjamin's tangent now over. Back to Red Dead.
Yeah.
Shaving stinks.
Well, like
Bathing.
I said, it's just you have to eat. Your guy gets, your character gets thin if you don't eat. You have to.
Does it affect your stamina?
It does, and you have
Okay,
to
so at
feed your
least-
horse. You have to talk to your horse.
Wait. You have to feed your horse?
Yes, you have to feed the horse. You have to talk to the horse. You have to
What do you
brush the
feed him?
horse.
I just know carrots. I'm not.
like carrots and stuff.
Okay, so
but
it is
like
carrots.
treats,
Okay.
But they have stables, where you have.
Oh, boy.
What I'm saying is it's not necessarily 100% imperative to the game that you do all of these types of things, but they're just things that they're there, and it's interesting that they thought and put that much effort to make them there. But they are also things that I could care less about.
Right.
Like I don't need that.
How many
Like,
hours are you in it?
Oh, I've probably only put like 6 or 8 hours into it at this point, so not real far.
I heard a guy in GameStop recently, which is funny. I was just like getting their sale, and you know, around the holidays, you get a lot of people who normally aren't there in there. And I saw this this guy and his son was a teenager, and they both are. You can tell they got some money because they're both wearing suits, and it's a GameStop, and it's really funny. And they got the hair like Greco from Wall Street. And they're just in there, and the guy working behind the thing looks like a normal GameStop guy, and he was talking about, oh, what about Red Dead? Have you guys heard of Red Dead Redemption? You know, they were entertained. It's not like they were, no, I haven't heard of this. You know, they were talking back and forth, but the guy who was working said, oh, yeah, I've already put 80 hours into it.
Wow. Yeah.
And so this Greco guy kind of heard that, like, 80 hours into a video. You know, it kind of stopped him. And, you know, the guy originally said it say it's so in depth. Yeah, that you could put in so many hours. That was just a funny aside. Cause
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of video game for the money.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so I guess the sort of the minutia, that minutia is a double-sided coin. Some people really get into that kind of thing. And I don't begrudge people for that. I just don't care for it.
I know.
But you could take this from the standpoint of a guy who, as I have gotten older, the games I am playing are more and more and more arcadey.
I don't even like to shave myself.
Than they used to be. Well, just like, let's just get to the game part.
Right.
You know,
right. That's what I'm saying.
Is sort of the thing. And I guess my other knock on it is, and this is just a completely subjective thing that a lot of people are going to disagree with. I don't like Arthur Morgan. I don't like the main character as much as I did John Marston.
Oh, okay. So you don't like the character.
I don't dislike him. Yeah. He's just more of a gruff bro dude cowboy than John Marston was. John Marston was kind of this sort of shifty talking kind of. Yeah. I don't know. I like the way that character talks better, and I just like that character better. I just don't like this character as much.
So what about this though? What about the ensemble? Meaning, so there's a lot of I think characters in
correct.
this. Do the rest flesh themselves out?
The surrounding characters, and that's the thing. Like the surrounding characters and the surrounding plot around Arthur Morgan, is better than the first Red Dead. Okay. I think for sure. So it's a give and take. I'm not saying it's like a huge drop off or anything like that, but I mean, overall, it's a really cool game. I'm going to keep playing it intermittently.
Yeah.
It's not one of those things that I can't put down. Again, probably because it is relatively slow. Like, so I'll play it for 30 minutes or an hour, do a mission, and then, you know, turn it off and, you know, go back upstairs or whatever.
Gotcha.
But it's just one of those things that, you know, after the kids go to bed or before they wake up, because otherwise you don't have enough time to do anything.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So it sounds interesting. That thing that you talked about, where it's good you pointed that out, of like personal cares and this kind of mild RPG stuff. You know, this is what's weird to me. If you look at Rockstar, San Andreas did this stuff, and they stopped doing it for a reason, because it was kind of dumb. Like, if you remember, like, you had Grand Theft Auto 3, you had Vice City, which to this day, I mean,
the soundtrack.
I just think about Vice City and I just smile and I think back, everything about it. I love the 80s back then, and 80s wasn't really overly done. Yeah, the soundtrack was great, but then you had San Andreas, where you can work out or you can eat and you can make yourself bigger and your stamina. But like, it just didn't quite work. Like, they've done that before. So it's curious to me that they're going back to that. But, you know, I think this game is interesting because a lot of people who don't play video games will play this game. I went to Lawrence. I might have already said on the podcast, I was in a used video game store, and sometimes the things that happen are better than the deals in the games, just the people that come in. And there was a guy that looked about 60 years old and was coming in just to buy an Xbox because he heard this game was coming out. And I think the last game he played was the old Red Dead, and then nothing in between. And he's going to buy this new system just to play Red Dead 2. So it's like, I like that. I like that more than anything. I like to have other people.
Oh, I mean, it definitely has broad appeal. I mean, it's like it really is like a movie. I mean, it's movie production quality, you know, through and through.
But broad appeal, so does Madden. But this is like broad appeal, but brings out a 60-year-old to frickin' buy a console. That's awesome to me. And we have some listeners. You remember that early email? Hopefully he's still listening. He's like, I'm kind of at grandparent, right? Video game granddads or whatever. He's like, he's a generation.
Now, that'll happen to us one of these days.
It will, sooner than we probably think, because we blink and we get older and fatter and grayer and everything else. Something else to mention, if this is a good segue. We didn't talk much about it because of we forgot because we got cut off. in the first couple minutes, I said we got an awesome package.
Oh, yeah.
And this is something we need to talk about. So, FYI, so please don't send us stuff. But we got an awesome package from somebody, and we really appreciate it. A guy named Mike, Texas.
Yeah,
Mike
from Texas. Yeah.
Sorry, we re-recorded this, so I'm realizing I better throw this in there. We're gonna make there's gonna be a YouTube vid of us unboxing this really nice gift. We've always kind of said no.
Awesome gift.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Full of a lot of fun stuff. We won't even go into it here, so you gotta jump on our YouTube. And I already made these jokes, so they're not as funny. Our YouTube with like 10 people watching it, this bites. But
Yeah, join the other 10.
yeah, sorry, Mike. We did a better spoiler with all 4 of us guys talking about it. But there will be a video coming up, hopefully soon, on our YouTube that shows us unboxing this stuff. And he loaded it full of a lot of really neat stuff. So watch out for a box. We're going to send you some shirts and
amazing
hats.
stuff.
Will arrive to you, Mike. You outdid yourself. He was purging his collection because he was getting married.
Uh-huh.
And he just wanted to downsize his space, and he didn't say it in a like, oh, the old new ball and chain wants me to get rid of games. It sounded like it was just as much anything. Like he's like, I should probably downsize once you start getting together, which is kind of part of it. Either that or you got to take out a storage locker. So you got to weigh your pros and cons there on that one. But anyway, we really appreciate it. Thanks, and check out our YouTube to check out an unboxing video.
Yeah, you
We
won't
don't
be
do much of that.
disappointed in the video, I think.
Yeah, definitely check it out. But anyway, Red Dead. Anything else about it?
I don't think so, and I don't mean to sound negative on it. I'm just
I don't
giving
think you are.
just giving you my couple of little negative things. Overall, I think it's a really solid game, and it's a fun game, and it's a cool game. It kind of depends on what you want. I think the
How's
biggest
the shooty? Sorry.
It's okay. I mean,
Okay.
a lot of people complain about trying to shoot on the horse. It was hard to shoot on the horse in Red Dead 1.
It's hard to shoot on a horse in
and
real
it's hard
life.
to shoot on a horse.
Yeah.
But no, I mean,
assume.
the biggest problem I have with this game is probably the same that I do with Breath of the Wild. I recognize that both of them are like super awesome games, and have all this stuff to do and everything else, and it's almost overwhelming, and they're almost hard to play because they so are.
Yeah.
Because they are so overwhelming.
That was me with God of War.
So it kind of depends on what you want. I mean, but this is not I'm gonna have a real succinct video game experience in the next 10 minutes. It's not that kind of game.
Gotcha.
Like it's a game. It's like sitting down to read like one of the really thick older Tom Clancy novels. Like you got to sit down and pay attention to it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's fun. I'll talk about another game I was going to play. And just so you know, too, any of our book club picks, and emails and everything else, if I didn't already say, we'll talk about on our next episode. We're just kind of running through to salvage this episode. I played something in VR. I played the Tetris Effect.
Oh yeah, as have I.
Yeah. So for those that aren't familiar with the game, their creator that did Lumines and Rez, these are all kind of abstract music rhythm games, but not like Guitar Hero or anything like that.
Musically intricate.
Yeah, musically intricate
Yeah.
games. You don't have to be a musician to like play them, but it uses music as kind of that, like, the difference between when you see something live that you really like, which is a good. So we could have segued into this from your concert show, but or your concert talk. Tetris Effect uses the core gameplay of Tetris, but it enhances it with all these kind of really kind of neat, aesthetically pleasing like visuals that's in the vein of those older games, and it really takes something new and adds it to something old and creates what I think is a really great overall video game.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You don't have to have VR, FYI, to play it. And
helps.
They did make a physical copy, but it does help. So the VR is really nice because you just get more immersed in the sound and in the visuals. I haven't played it in regular, but again, when and if I get this new HD TV with the 4K and the HDR and the OLED or whatever it is, I've heard that if you put it in the 2D version, it looks really, really good.
It does. I've actually played it both ways.
Oh, you have? Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've already played through the story. I beat it the first night I played it. I played it for like 6 hours straight. There's still so much more to unlock.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I found this out too. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I know you want to talk about it a little bit. If you get, you can experience up like an RPG. Do you know where I'm getting at? Mm-hmm. Oh, you already do. So if you get to a certain level, you can unlock the old Tetris level where you get to like play the old music and the old colors and everything. So I need to play that game so I can unlock that. But it's just there's a lot of little cool Easter eggs in it. But what do you think about it?
I don't know. It's like you were saying. I mean, it's taking something old and applying a lot of new fancy technology and new music. It's everything that's great about Tetris, but sort of a new experience built around it. And you can tell that it was built by people who really care about what they were doing. I think that's the thing that probably sticks out to me the most. Like if you talk about video games in the context of like video games as an art form sort of thing, like this is something that it's old, but this is a re-rendition of people who really cared about the aesthetic, about the experience that goes along with it, to make it a unique experience. It's like watching your favorite old movie in like the nicest theater possible, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense.
Or it's like watching an old movie that you've only seen on a standard like 13-inch television, and now all of a sudden you're watching it on a 4K 70-inch screen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing, if that makes sense. So that's the best analogy I can use for it. But it's super fun. I mean, heck, it's Tetris. How can you go wrong?
Right. And I think it's one where you have to kind of seek out, Google it to kind of see what we're talking about, because you can't really, if you don't know the style, it's hard for us to describe it without seeing it. And even still, it's hard to describe it without playing it. Even by seeing it, it's just really good. There's something different that it does where the big pull for the game is you can kind of build up a meter, and when you use the meter, you can kind of do a quick play where you can stack a whole bunch of blocks and get like a uber combo. But it also has a give and pull. Like if you mess that up, you can like kind of
You could
screw
totally
yourself
hose
up.
yourself, yes.
Yeah, you can kind of screw yourself up. But if you like Tetris, you should just pick it up. It's
Yeah,
kind
if you
of a
just like puzzle
no-brainer.
games at all,
Yeah.
you should pick it up.
And it's just on PlayStation, right?
I think that's the case.
I think it's a PlayStation exclusive.
There is physical and there is digital on it.
Yeah, but PlayStation exclusive, not on Switch, not on Xbox, not on PC, from what I understand. But maybe PC. I'm not sure. Jury's out on that one. But please check it out. I think it's $29.99.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, but check that sucker out. So something worth talking about. We won't talk about for very, very long, but right up our alley.
Because everyone else is talking about it.
Yeah. If you haven't heard, the NES Classic came out a couple of years ago, then the Super Nintendo Classic, everybody's thinking then 64, and then out of nowhere, Sony released the PlayStation Classic. So the old 1996 old PS1 has a classic tiny mini edition. We talked a little bit about it a couple episodes ago, but now they released the whole game list. Adam, do you have this sucker pre-ordered?
I do. I pre-ordered it as soon as I could, actually.
Yeah, I pre-ordered it knowing like, hey, if I don't like the game list or something else, I can get rid of it. But they released the whole game list, and why don't I go through it in Europe and North America? Evidently, they're the same games, I think. So I'll run through these here. And previously, they released 5.
And the first 5 that they released, I think, had everybody hyped up quite a bit.
Yeah, decently. I mean, they had Wild Arms, but then they also had that Jumping Jack Flash. It wasn't like the top 5 that you knew would be.
Yeah, but there was like kind of an esoteric but highly thought of game, and
and we did not do good on this, because I remember we talked about.
Oh yeah, almost none of the stuff that we picked, to be honest, is on it.
No, yeah, we were right about Resident Evil Director's Cut. We can go through the list. Sorry, I'm kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but there's a couple actually. We
hit on a couple, but a lot of the ones that we were saying should be mainstays
for sure
are not there.
Yeah, that was interesting. So here we go from the beginning. I'll just run through the list, and then we'll kind of go for each one. So we'll just run through the list without stopping here, so we get through it. So the 20 games are Battle Arena Toshinden, Cool Borders 2, Destruction Derby, Final Fantasy 7. Grand Theft Auto, first one, Intelligent Cube, Jumping Flash, Metal Gear Solid, Mr. Driller, Oddworld Apes Odyssey, Rayman, Resident Evil Director's Cut, Revelations Persona, first Persona game, Ridge Racer Type 4, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, Siphon Filter, Tekken 3, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, Twisted Metal, the first one, and Wild Arms. So that was released we were kind of way off.
I think everybody was
I can
way
say
off,
a couple, like, it was funny. I swear Intelligent Cube and definitely Oddworld Abe's Odyssey and Resident Evil Director's Cut we were picking, which wasn't kind of near that was more of our, we doubt it.
Yeah, we doubt it, but maybe. Yeah.
And boy, they picked it. So as a whole, I've got my ideas, which as a whole, just what do you think of the list?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad list. Like, if you were to write down, like, hey, we're going to play these PlayStation games, or I've got these in my collection, like my personal collection, I'd be like, it's a decent collection. Okay,
Right.
Like, I wouldn't poo-poo it, like if it was on somebody's shelf or something like that. Now, is it the cream of the crop, highest echelon, system-defining games? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there are a couple in there. Your Resident Evil, your Final Fantasy VII, you know, maybe your Ridge Racer Type 4, you know, for a racing game. Are there good games in there? Absolutely. But they're not the ones that are like at the tip of your frontal lobe when it comes to like, hey, let's talk about PlayStation.
Yeah. Yeah. So for most people, these 20 games, it's really kind of 7. So are these 7 or 8 worth $100 of having a cool tiny thing that's there? So I mean, so you know, we said we talked about the games. Ballerina to Shinden, I think that's cool.
Yeah,
I'd
cool
say
game.
that's good to have on the list. Cool Borders 2. I mean, I remember playing Cool Borders, but like keeping that in there and looking at screenshots and some video of it again, I was like,
gonna play that one.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, I'll play it once just to remember. It's like, hey, let's play a bad snowboarding game. And then Destruction Derby, I like that game. Final Fantasy VII, which is like, that was an early, right? They said that.
And you know, the Final Fantasy VII, I've played through it, I don't know, 2 or 3 times, I think, from beginning to end, and it is a game that, you know, has a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people. But if you have not played it in the past, I would argue, don't flame me, but I would argue it hasn't aged particularly well for people who would be newcomers to it.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a system-defining game, though.
Yeah, I didn't play a lot of RPGs, but I played a bit of Final Fantasy VII. I remember at the time when I played the little preview that came out on a PlayStation Underground demo disc, I was pretty blown away from the scope of it. It felt like
well,
you
it was
were
the
watching,
cinematics.
Yes.
You know, that's what it was all about back then. Was those really cool cinematics that came with it.
And it's funny because nowadays you have cinematic like The Last of Us and all these other games, but it's more like a movie, not more like you're in awe. But you know, Final Fantasy VII is a good get in there. The first Grand Theft Auto, you know, I know some people have some. I just actually don't. I'm not a huge fan of the overhead stuff. And it's an overhead view.
I mean, you know, I suppose they wanted to include something just because Grand Theft Auto is such a big name. But yeah, that first game is not.
Yeah.
That was on nobody's radar back then.
Intelligent Cube, I think, is a great puzzle game. I think that's great they had it on there. That one and 2, if you ever find this, they have it on PSP as well. I think that's a great game. Jumping Flash, I think, is a cool game to have on here.
Yeah,
it's
I
really
think so.
quirky.
Early 3D game.
Metal Gear Solid, of course, is awesome. That's a great game. Mr. Driller, I think...
It's a good game, but again, it's not one that people like have. There's not a lot of people that have a ton of nostalgia for Mr. Driller.
Yeah,
you know?
but it's fun.
Yeah,
so
it's a
like,
good game.
if you've never played it before, and you're
And
just kind of
it's
open
one of those
for
games
whatever,
that's going to have aged well. You know.
Yeah, you said could or didn't?
No, I'm sure it did.
Yes,
I haven't played it in forever, but I'm sure it aged well.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that I kind of get why it's on here. Oddworld Abe's Odyssey is kind of a classic niche game. It's good they have that sucker on there. I'm not a huge fan. The original Rayman. It's cool. That's the 2D Rayman. It's a great 2D platformer, but I think it's overshadowed because the 3D ones are so good.
Yeah.
The 2D were great. If they never made the 3D, I think everybody would have this even more fonder memories of it. Resident Evil Director's Cut. That's cool.
Yeah.
I did randomly replay Resident Evil Director's Cut because I finally got a physical PlayStation Vita, which I'm happy about. And you know what was funny? The guy who had it before did not wipe the card. So I had these weird home videos of this little kid's mom like doing jump rope and stuff. It was really weird. Did I show you that?
Yeah, you got to be careful going into.
Dude, yeah. So like, yeah, luckily that was it was just random. I was like, why? I think he was doing it because he was playing a video game. His mom was doing something. And then later she was like, oh, you're videoing me or something. But the whole thing, it's like, it feels like have a hidden camera in somebody's home. So I, of course, deleted the memory card. But what was on there as well was Resident Evil Director's Cut. So I started playing through it and, oh man, that voice acting. Holy cow.
Yeah, but that voice acting's so bad good.
It is bad good. It is bad good, but it is, I really like, I still to this day feel like they
Does it-
had to have done that on purpose.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it
so
still has the
overdone.
line of "Here is the pick lock, since you are the master of unlocking locks."
The master of unlocking, yeah. Yeah, but the whole it's just everything is it's beyond like Shakespeare in the Park. It's like it's real weird. Revelations Persona. People who are fans of this game kind of say like, kind of surprised this one's in here. I don't know, it's kinda-
I have no
ties to
knowledge
it.
of that game at
Yeah.
all. I can't vouch for it either way.
It's good to have a Ridge Racer Type 4. I kind of like the fact they got Super Puzzle Fighter Turbo. It's great.
Dude, I love that game.
It's a great game.
They get well in pro tip.
Yeah,
Since Shane's not here, so that's also on Saturn, which is really expensive. But there's a Game Boy Advance version of that. Super Puzzle Fighter Turbo
Yeah.
HD.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, I have that.
Yeah, it's really good on the Game Boy Advance.
It's real
and it's
good.
even cheaper than the PlayStation version if you're buying like the real copy.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. It's yeah. So of course, like if you were to buy these retail, you'd be spending a few $100s on them for sure. Wild Arms. Okay, so the Siphon Filter. Like
Why not 2 or 3?
Well, how about this? Like Siphon Filter was very popular. They're out there. It's not an expensive game, right? So they
Correct.
made it also for the PSP. But it was a very PlayStation-y game, meaning back
was.
in the day, people played and talked about Siphon Filter. This was before, not before Tom Clancy, obviously, because there's one of those in there. But this was before like any kind of first-person shooter, overtaker, or whatever. This was even before Splinter Cell.
Yeah.
And then Splinter Cell has come and gone. So this is real a dig deep type of game. Very good, but like when you play these kind of games nowadays, it's like
Yeah, they haven't aged
it's
particularly well.
yeah, it's like trying to run a marathon.
Well, the
where
whole thing
you're
with that
halfway
game
under
was like, well,
sand.
what? I have a gun with a scope and I can look down it.
Yeah,
You know, like that was the thing.
yeah. So this is what we already knew. Like the
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation, it's hard to awe you on stuff because it was the cinematics, it was the more mature kind of content on this, not necessarily the gameplay. And you know, that makes it a tougher
I mean, Siphon
sell.
Filter's a good game. It is, but again, I try to come at it from like, okay, do people have nostalgia for it, and B,
Want to play it enough?
want to play it now, or C, if they're new to PlayStation, because you're trying to reintroduce the PlayStation to maybe like kids.
Yeah.
Or people that didn't play these games back then. I'm not sure that that's one that's going to translate real well for those types.
So like well here let's finish the list. And I'll finish my thoughts. So Tekken 3, great game.
Yeah,
Good, it's in
awesome
here.
game.
So you got 2 Fire, this one and Ballerina to Shinden. Got a few puzzle games. And then you got Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, which is interesting in the fact that this is out of all of them. I'm kind of like, okay, all right.
I remember those games, and I know people really, really like them,
guess.
but I found them frustrating and slow.
I just again talk about the whole like, is it worth playing? I get that's why they put Mr. Driller in there. You know, I feel like, well, not everybody's played this, but people will be okay with this one. But Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six was really interesting. Twisted Metal, the first one, so at least they had a Twisted.
Yeah, I mean,
the
it's
way
cool
this
to have
list-
the first one. You know, again, if you were going to put one on there, you'd go with 2, I think, every day. If you had to
Exactly.
pick.
Yeah, they on more than a few, they've kind of picked odd ones from the series, kind of like the first one, which lends itself to kind of a speculation that they're going to have more. Let me finish this list. So Twisted Metal, the way the list was going, thank God they even had a Twisted Metal on there, right? Because that wasn't guaranteed. And the last one, Wild Arms, another RPG. So it looks like, I feel like what they did was, especially getting through this list, they were like, okay, we have 20 sports titles, 1 or 2, but it has to be like a sport. So that's really just a driving game and Cool Borders 2.
Yeah.
No, whatever. So they check that box. Fighters, they have 2 fighters. Puzzle games, they have like 3 or 4. Well, that Racer Destruction Derby is like an arcade racer. Platformers, check. They got a couple of those. And then the staples, which are like Resident Evil Director's Cut, Tekken 3, Twisted Metal. Yeah, Twisted Metal is what I'm thinking about. And then, of course, Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy VII. I kind of could tell that they were just going down and doing a checkbox kind of thing.
Sort of, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and there's a few things that I think are, I mean, the biggest thing that I think is personally that I would have liked to have seen on is a good 2D fighter. There's 2 3D fighters on there.
Uh-huh.
Like a really solid 2D fighter would have been really nice. And the other game and again, this is a personal thing. I really would have liked to have seen a Wipeout game on it.
Yeah, that's
as a racer.
That had to have been like
Because especially early in
one of the last
PlayStation's
second
life,
cuts.
like Wipeout was a very, for me at least, was a very system-defining sort of game when the first Wipeout came out.
Yeah, definitely.
But there's been a whole lot of hate for that list of games.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to be like you. I'm going to keep it. Yes, okay, I know some of the things that might make you not want to buy this if you're just listening to us, not trying to get our in-depth talk. So, it doesn't have the DualShock, so you're going to be playing these games in a less than ideal control fashion and one that you might not be as used to. It'll be playable. You'll totally get it. And this marketed to a kid and a grandma and this and that, like you kind of get how it plays, and especially if you're just buying these. The other thing is it's just a cute little thing, and I like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, people.
It's like a fun little thing. You can hook it up HDMI.
Yeah, people. If you get on YouTube and see sort of people's impressions of this, when the list was released, it was sort of like the sky is falling. It's the worst thing ever. Sony, why have you done this to us? Or people just way overreacting to it. If you don't like it, don't buy it. But for $100, I mean, it's 20 games. Most of them are pretty good games. And it's a cute little PlayStation thing. I mean, I'm still going to keep it. I still think it's worth $100.
Yeah.
But to each his own. I mean, if you don't, then don't get it. And there's always, there's the speculation, like you were kind of alluding to earlier, is that because there aren't a lot of sequels on here, and because a lot of the heavy hitters aren't on here. Well, there's 2 speculations. One is we're going to get a lot more remakes.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to compete with their remakes that they have planned for the future. And 2 is there's going to be a second version of this thing, with different games on it.
Yeah, I can see that maybe happening. They've got plenty of library to do that. I just think, too, it would have been cool if then they would have been pretty open about it and said version 1. But, of course, if it didn't sell well, they wouldn't. But I kind of feel like Sony's the type of company that it makes sense. Like, let's say they say, hey, this is the PSX Mini Classic version 1, implying there's 2. Then if it doesn't sell, all the more reason to just cut it anyway. But it's just speculation. I would hope they would release more, but this might be a one and done.
Maybe,
and we don't even know if
if
it'll sell.
My perfect version of this would have been that they would release 5, 6 different consoles, and like this is the Capcom PlayStation 1 Classic. This is the Konami PlayStation 1 Classic.
Yeah.
This is the Sony Studios PlayStation 1 Classic.
I know, but then you're getting it.
I know.
It's perfect for a collector, but not for the average.
Never gonna happen.
Yeah,
never
not
gonna
for the
happen.
average person.
But man, it would be cool.
You got your Neo Geo Mini. Just be happy. That's out of all the minis so far. That's the one that's so.
And people hate on that thing. I'm in some Neo Geo groups on Facebook and stuff, and they all just hate on that thing so hard.
I don't pay attention to it.
It's a nice, fun little thing. I mean, yeah, it could have more features on it than it does, but there's nothing wrong with it.
So much stuff in this genre, like I was talking about earlier. I wrote a Facebook on another group where it's like, there's so many times people get bent out of shape, and it's like, then don't listen to it, don't talk to it. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like, really, it's like if you're gonna watch somebody, I think it's important to get an opinion, but that's why there's IGN and GameStop, which they've already posted a couple opinions. You can look at them. I think they're good because they are actually people who aren't just random YouTubers that scream into a microphone, or even us who are just like, casually giving you. They're ones that went through the list, got to meet with Sony, got to play this thing, and some of their impressions kind of let you know. They're kind of like, unless you really, really want this and this sounds really, really awesome, it sounds like something you can pass on because of whatever they say. But their impressions and their review of it kind of have come out this kind of 7 out of 10, not this amazing yeah, definitely pick it up. So it's kind of the same.
It's kind of a meh.
Giving.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's kind of a meh.
Okay.
That's what we're saying. But I still think it's a neat that it exists because it shows that retro gaming is getting out to the norm, because this is a niche kind of thing. This whole idea, it's been something we've wanted. And then when you see the retro people, like what you said, not to just harp on it, like getting on that's funny to me because why wouldn't you want your hobby to get a little more mainstream?
Dude, I'm telling you, man, it's I mean, going back to punk rock, it's the same.
Right.
You know, I have my little band, they're my little thing, and if they get popular, now all of a sudden I hate them or I hate people who listen to them because they were my thing.
I remember that.
You
Yeah,
know, like it's just the deal. You know, I mean, it's just everybody likes to have their own little thing. And I mean, I have a lot of critiques of retro gaming and the retro gaming community and that sort of thing, just in the general sense. And you know, one of which is that we think these things are so cool, but we want them to only be ours, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to fight against that a little bit. And then the other is that we want hardware and software that does a bazillion things, works flawlessly, and also costs 25 cents.
Yeah.
You know, those two things don't. You know, you have all these conflicting things, and it's not a perfect world. There's trade-offs with all this stuff. So I don't know. I mean, it could be better. It could be worse. It could be more expensive. It could be less expensive. But I think
it's $100, right?
Yeah, I think $100. Yeah, it's 99 or whatever.
Yeah,
but yeah,
$100.
I think $100. You know, you can justify the expense for those games, and you know, it's going to take up. I mean, it's the size of a deck of cards practically. So I mean, it's not going to take up any space in your house.
Yeah, if you wanted to play those and you had 5 games in there that you wanted to play, boom, there's your $100.
Yeah, there you go.
Easy.
Yeah.
And some of them are more than that. So if you're into it, then you should get it. If you're not, then it kind of then let your wallet speak to them and say, actually, this list wasn't good enough, and then they'll learn that they can't put anything
honestly,
out.
the nice thing about it is there may not be the scalping problem that there was with the, with the Nintendo
true.
stuff. I mean, you know, there may not be as much demand, so you may not have people selling them for exorbitant prices on Craigslist.
Right. But I bet Sony's not doing the Nintendo thing.
Yeah, they're probably not.
They're probably producing a lot. So you're right. This is better to wait for, because there's no price drops on the classics, I don't think.
No,
Yeah.
they've all been the same. I mean, and honestly, this one it may be that it ends up in Best Buy stacked to the ceiling. You know,
And the classics are luckily everywhere now.
Yeah, they
which,
are.
Thank gosh. It took a long time, but they're finally out and about. But anyway, yeah, that's the whole list. We're way off, so we'll see if this N64 ever comes out. We have an old episode that talks about our game list that we guessed, so we'll do that. But anyway, cool. Moving on. So moving on from that real quick, we could say this kind of runs into the stuff we talk about. Unfortunately, Stan Lee passed away recently.
yeah, I was actually really sad.
Yeah.
Like legit,
Were
really
you?
sad when I heard that. Yeah.
So I wasn't super because I've been following him on the news because unfortunately recently he's been on TMZ and all this stuff. Unfortunately, like elder abuse situations where
Yeah, I heard
his
a little
his
about that,
manager
yeah.
was like trying to take money from him, and then they got this like fake nurse that kind of supposedly gives him sponge ashes and then like takes his money or something. It was really weird, but it's been going on for like 6 months. So when I heard he kept having reoccurring pneumonia, and I'm like, oh boy, this isn't going to go well. And then you find out he passed away. I was like, it's not surprising. Still super sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done. I watched a lot of his cameos. They did this thing from 1989 to 2018 where they showed all his cameos in order. And
I always get
chronological
excited
order.
when I see his cameos in the movies, you know, just for that like 5 seconds or whatever, you know, you're always looking for him.
Yeah, I was happy to know I saw most of them, but a couple of the movies I never saw. Do you have a favorite?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Mine would be Deadpool, where he is the DJ at a strip club.
I was actually going to say that's probably the most memorable.
Do you know what's funny
Out of
about
all
that?
of them,
He did an interview. He actually was blue screened in that.
Oh really? He
wasn't-
wasn't even there.
He was there, but maybe the strip club wasn't. Because if you look at the way the clip was, it was either they were there and the strip club was in, and he just came in for that quick scene. And I was like one take evidently, and he just, which, I mean, nothing against it. Like his acting skills are. Like, I remember if you wouldn't know ahead of time, you'd say, like, this must be a guy that knows somebody, because he's always like, hey, Spider-Man, what are you up to? But it's so endearing and so great. And when he played, like, Hugh Hefner, I think the Iron Man ones were very good.
Yeah, they were all good.
Because Iron Man, he pretended to be somebody else. And on some of them, he pretended to be Stan Lee. Then he did this, like, I'm a postal service worker for a while, thinking that would... But
Well, sometimes he'd just be like the person in the front of a crowd that was going to get crushed by a wave or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty funny. But I think the one where he was Hugh Hefner was pretty good. And the one where he was pretending to be, who's the guy that interviews everybody? That
I don't remember.
Dang, it's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, when he was doing impersonations, I thought it was pretty good. But, he he was a visionary. He gave us a lot of the things that we enjoy. I mean, I like mutants. I like X-Men. I like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Superheroes were below that for me growing up, but that wasn't for everybody. But I loved the heck out of a lot of his creations. And it's always sad when you have someone who impacts so many people and changes their lives, even if it's just kind of changing their things that they do for fun, right? Giving them enjoyment. It's not necessarily like he's go pass on to their next
just
life.
even that, but
impacting that many people.
Make these iconic things that everybody sort of congeals around.
Yeah,
you know, like I don't know, you just can't put a number or quantitate that in any sort of way.
Yeah, and luckily he wasn't a crotchety old guy. Sometimes you hear about stuff like that, and they're like, I don't want anything to do with you and you crazy kid. But he showed up and did autographs.
Oh yeah. And the stuff he made was not like, we had a focus group and then decided that this is what tested, the best amongst 13-year-olds in this demographic.
Correct.
Like he just made stuff that was cool and that people could relate to. And then,
he didn't do it for this. Like if he didn't start doing what he's doing to be the reality of what Stan Lee was. He did it because I like creating something. And what do you know? The things I create, people happen to like. Not many people get to experience that.
Nope.
Most of the time you create stuff and it's for you. And if you're lucky, somebody else enjoys it. But it's anyway. But anyway, obviously, he will be missed. So, nearing the end, let's quickly talk. There's this thing called Black Friday.
Black Friday.
So, Black Friday's coming up. Some people either love it or hate it. People love to show the videos of people getting trampled, but in reality, retailers have done better. It's just a lot of sales. It's so people make their quotas, so places stay in business.
I do the vast majority of it online.
Yes, you can do it all online. When you say, hey, do you do Black Friday? And people are like, did you know? A lot of people still don't know that you can buy everything, just about everything online, except a doorbuster.
And even the stuff that's in the store, a lot of the time, you can buy it and go pick it up later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'd like to say I'm a pretty good veteran of this stuff, so I don't know if you want to listen to this for tips or tricks or what we talk about, but we'll kind of throw all this kind of out there if that sounds fair.
Sure.
I'll tell you what I do. Normally on Black Friday, at least the last now 3-4 years, I used to like never go out because you'd see the mob and you're like, well, I don't want to die.
Yeah, they'd be lined up all the way outside in the cold.
Yeah, I don't want to lose an eyeball or a testicle or something or both. So like I started going out and I went out with a buddy of mine and we would go out on Thanksgiving because now for like the last 10 years they have it on Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, so it's Thanksgiving night, all the craziness.
So, and I've probably already mentioned this before on a podcast, but I go out on Thanksgiving, but I go about 8 o'clock at night, 2 hours after the doorbusters. And do you know what happens? It's actually very convenient. There's a ton of people that are in checkouts, like workers.
Oh yeah. They have like every checking lane open.
Yeah. So the 40 checkout lanes at Target, 35 of them are open as opposed to 3 on a Saturday. So you actually get in and out faster. And so this is why, if you aren't listening, again, you might be in a metropolitan like super New York where it is a dense amount of people, so that might not be quite right. And there's still a crowd usually a couple hours later. But again, it's not anything. It's more people are like, I haven't ran into really. It might be we're in the Midwest.
Things have gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
If you go to the store on Black Friday than they used to be, probably my most memorable one is when I lived in Minnesota, and we were lined up outside of a place, hundreds of people deep, waiting on
I've
waiting
never
on this
done
to
that.
open.
I haven't done that.
And it's one of those where they open the doors at like 10 p.m. and then there's a bull rush going into the store.
Whoa.
So it's Minnesota, so it's like 0 degrees outside, and so we're all lined up like we should have been, got there on time, and there was, I can't remember what it was, but I was getting all my Christmas shopping done, and there were specific things in there I was going to go look for.
Yeah.
And but there were people sitting in their cars, so all of us lined up at the door because we're decent people, and then some people stayed in the cars, and when they opened the doors up, the people like the runner zombies. Like the ones from 28 Days Later or whatever, got out of their cars and ran across the parking lot at the people who were already in line.
Yikes.
Trying to push their way in, cutting in line, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So there was almost a full-on riot, during the thing. I really thought like police were going to show up,
Whoa.
So I kind of, pushed my way through, got into the store, and it was just people soup inside of there. I got most of
People soup.
I got most of what I wanted, but then they didn't have the checkout aisles staffed well enough, and so the checkout lines, I'm not exaggerating, they were all the way to the back of the store.
So this was how many years ago?
Oh, this has been, I don't know, a decade ago.
Yeah, see, so they were terrible, but I will say credit to the retailers. Now they even have maps out so you know where to go.
Oh, yeah,
And they
yeah.
don't put the things in the obvious places, so then that way you can get to them. And they have extra workers there by far. And, of course, these workers, you think they sign up for holiday hours or they get, they have to hire. Places like Target and Walmart end up tripling their staff.
Oh, yeah. And
for 3 months out of the year just for this.
But there were so many people in line, and it was already so late in the evening and everything else. I actually just left my basket full of stuff and just walked out of the store.
Jeez.
Didn't get it. And so I took a few years off from doing Black Friday, and since then I have never lined up, if that makes sense. Like if I go to a place or look at a store and there's a line, I'm like, nope, not going in there.
Yeah.
So I've been a few times on Black Friday, but it's been fairly casual. Like it hasn't been like I've got to get the one laptop that's in there that's the front page of the circular, But yeah, they've gotten, from what I can tell, they've gotten a lot better. And not only better, but it seems like in 10, 12, 15 years ago, they would advertise like, oh, we have a $200 laptop, but they would buy like one per store and just advertise the bejesus out of it.
Yep.
But I feel like retailers have gotten a lot better about like, here's the good deal, but we bought enough of them to meet the demand that's going to be there on Black Friday. Or at least has been my more recent experience. Because I'll just roll in right around noon,
Yeah.
and buy some like $3 DVDs and
the DVDs and Blu-rays, which there's a bunch. Like let's see, like Black Panther, Infinity War, Coco. They're all like $5. And they're the Blu-ray, so I'm gonna get those.
And nobody's lining up for that stuff, even though it's dirt cheap. So I just roll through.
And they have thousands of them.
Yeah, they have gazillions of them out in the aisles. I'll just roll through, grab a few of those. If there's some cool little electronic dude.
I've been getting clothes recently because usually they have like all their clothes 30% off and then certain other clothes 50% off. And when you think about it, like, stuff's like already, I need that anyway. And it's like you get some pretty good deals. So I could tell, what I'm in the market for this year is I'm going to finally get a 4K TV. I've had my great little Samsung DLP, but it's ready to retire. So I'm going to likely either get an LG OLED or a Samsung QLED. And if you guys are like looking, best bang for your buck with really good HDR, this is a mid to higher end television. The 65 or 75 inch is only like $1,100, and it used to be like $1,700, and then I'm going to get a few Blu-rays. I'm going to update my PSVR to the new headset, and give my old one to a coworker or sell it for a very good price, which he's happy to have. And then I don't what. I think like Blu-rays and toys for the kids.
I'll just pick up whatever games are randomly cheap,
exactly.
that I want, and then I'll probably pick up a few movies. That'll probably be about it.
Yep, and some gifts for. It's just fun. I enjoy it. But like obviously there's other things like Kohl's and makeup and like other websites that I forget. It's like, oh yeah, these websites where I'm like, I want to buy this thing, but it's expensive. A lot of other off-the-grid websites have great Black Friday. This jacket I'm wearing, it's like really high quality. I got it on ThinkGeek at GameStop for $16.99, and I get compliments on it all the time, and it feels great. So, check out some of your favorite websites and see if they're running a Black Friday sale. There's a lot of fun diamonds in the rough there, too. So I'll go out Thursday night and hopefully with a family member, nephew I've been doing it with the last couple of years, and gonna see what kind of fun we can scrounge up there. All right, real quick, do some pickups in our handheld holla. Pickups, I've said it earlier. I finally got a Vita. Everybody, it's funny, said, oh, you didn't have a Vita? It's like, no, I've just had some games. I've yet to ever pick up a Vita because I couldn't get over the memory card thing.
Yeah, well, the memory card thing on the Vita does suck.
Yeah,
it's a horrible downside to that.
So
system.
those don't know, there's a proprietary memory card that, unlike the PSP, which started out proprietary, they started using that memory card for other cameras, and then the memory got cheap, and almost as cheap as normal SD, not quite, but close enough. Unfortunately, they only make like a 64 gigabyte card is like $100.
Oh yeah.
so that always has brought me away from this thing.
It totally killed the Vita.
And I get why it did, because now that I finally have one and I went ahead, I got a white one. So it sucks. Hopefully this story is somewhat interesting. I wanted to get a Vita. I got a white one. I was scammed on eBay, but luckily, those that know eBay, if you're scammed on eBay, it's not a big deal because you're just out a little bit of convenience because they'll give you your money back with the guarantee. So I got my money back, ended up getting a different one, and of course this one was legit. It's in great shape. It's the white one that has the OLED screen. I would recommend that if you're looking at a Vita. Either way, it's great if you get a good deal, but the original one has an OLED screen. A way you can tell the difference. Obviously the colors, it's only came in black and white. So if you're looking at one that was colored, and if you get a Japan one, you're going to be kind of limited to only using the Japan PSN. You can't use a US PSN on that. Shout out to Radical Reggie for making sure I knew that before I imported one, because you can import them cheaper. But the memory card still kind of stinks. I got a whole bunch of Vita games I got for the PlayStation Plus that I have to now get a memory card for. And the system came with 2 4-gigabyte memory cards, and that's enough to put like one good sized game on there, because Uncharted is almost 4 gigs right there. So like, you really just need a big card. So I'm going to probably spend $60 and get a card, as much as I groan at that. But that way I can play a lot of the library, and I'm picking up some of the games here and there. There's still a GameStop, so I figure you might as well get it while you can. But happy to pick that up. Anything else? Again, sorry guys, we're just cutting this episode a little bit shorter. We'll talk more about this. We'll have our video game book club. We're not going to do emails this episode too, even though we got a bunch. We'll save it for next episode, especially with the other guys not there. Like I said, just Adam and I on a Sunday night, and I'm going to stay up and edit this tonight so it gets out to you tomorrow morning. So go easy on me. It's all my fault. But let's do one more segment before we close up shop so we can kind of get back into our groove. And that is our Adam, take it.
Handheld. Hello.
That's a cool wavelength. You should see it. It looks like
It looks like
it looks like
when a whale dies.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, beached whale. So our handheld holla is when we shout out a game that can be popular, giving some love to the handhelds. It doesn't follow our same video game book club where it can't be super duper popular. It's just something we like. We suggest you guys to maybe pick up. Could be obscure, could just be not. And yeah, the only criteria is it has to be on a handheld, so we give them some love. Adam, what's your handheld holla pick?
So mine's a Game Boy Advance game.
All right.
It is Final Fantasy 1 and 2.
Yeah, cool. So why'd you pick this, Adam?
Well, it's the Final Fantasies. The old ones have been re-released a bunch of times, but these ones are sort of a repackaging, revamping of the first two. A little bit more playable, kind of updated graphics.
On one cart, both?
They're both on one cart.
Awesome.
So they're kind of 16-bit-ish, But Final Fantasy is kind of a deal. It's kind of a big deal, big franchise, and this is kind of the beginning of it. It's a pretty cheap, pretty user-friendly way to play it.
Is it 1-to-1 with the, or does it have some updates? GBA usually has
it's
some
updates. Yeah,
cool.
No, it's updated. Cool. I think the battle system's all updated a little bit, and it's, honestly, it's been like a gazillion years since I played like the original like Final Fantasy on an NES cart or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just basically a smoothed out experience, versus actually playing the real originals.
Awesome.
Plus, it's on the GBA, which is you can play it on the bus.
Yeah.
So go back to the roots.
Yeah, awesome, great pick. It just happens that way because it's a great system, and it's got a huge library, and not everybody knows about it. So I'm also going to pick a GBA game. I almost have to apologize for that because there's great handhelds out there, but I swear like maybe 30% of all our picks end up being GBA. So my pick is the Invincible Iron Man for GBA. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, no, I'm just saying it's a great tie-in, an Iron Man game.
Yeah.
For Stan Lee. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, it is. Right. Yeah. This is Stan Lee. I did not do that on purpose. This was before the movies. So, it's so funny. Like, Iron Man was a thing before the movies, but there was a cartoon. There's the comic series, and obviously this Iron Man's a little bulkier. So when you look at him, it's like, the new Iron Man is, now we know that that's Iron Man. But Iron Man was always bulky, even after he got out of version 1 suit, or that prototype when he broke out of the cave or whatever. And that was pretty realistic to the comics of the. If you look at Iron Man 1, that's what he looked like. He was just silver dude. This game is a platforming run and gun that is nice because it's very vertical, and I like these games because so many times when you're playing a platformer, it's a little claustrophobic. Even like Metal Gear, or not Metal Gear, sorry, Metal Slug. I like Metal Slug, and it's kind of run and gunny, but like you can't go very far. But this one actually has some pretty interesting platforming where you're jumping up pretty high and you're going up and down places. You can shoot your little projectiles. It's not overly simplistic. It's not overly complicated. It's just a great game. It's kind of hard to find. It's not super expensive, but I think it's actually getting up there now. Like it's $30-$40. Oh, wow. Pretty sure. I looked that up recently. I ended up getting my copy for about $12. That was a good deal at the time, a couple years ago. So it's called The Invincible Iron Man. Not hardly anybody talks about it for the GBA, but totally pick this up if you're a fan of the GBA. It would be a good addition to your library. So our 2 picks GBA game, Final Fantasy 1 and 2 by Adam, and The Invincible Iron Man for the GBA is my pick. All right, guys. I'm done apologizing. I'll apologize one more time. Thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. Sorry we couldn't get a normal episode. Like I said, we won't title this a full episode. This is 37.5. It was really just a trash fire. We're trying to put something together for you to make a normal episode. You can hear the first 5 minutes started out great outside of the fact that it then blew up. But we have a new laptop. Shouldn't happen again. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming every 3 weeks, and then we will get to our emails and everything else. But check out that YouTube vid. Should be dropping pretty soon of our unboxing. Again, don't send us anything. We kept saying no, and somehow we said yes to this one. And Mike, appreciate it a lot. Listen to us via Bedhead, I think. Really appreciate it. Cat just darted out of the corner of my eye. Freaked me out. That was weird. Great segue to end the show. You see a black cat going. We'll be back in 3 weeks. Adam, it's been a pleasure.
Yep. Thanks for having me over.
Yeah, thank you. Episode 37.5.
In the books.
Is in the books.
Thanks.